sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you are selecting an agent, how do you select your rental agent or your sales agent? And is their team that they work with really important to getting you more money? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it today. Agent selection.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Burgio Mark Novak, episode 1647, Lone Wolf or Wolf Pack agent selection. If you're sitting at home looking to pick an agent, you've called in two agents. One is an independent agent, works amongst themselves, listing and selling the property. That's agent A. Agent B works within a team. They may have someone helping with the buyer, helping with the admin and the agent themselves. What is this? Why doesn't everyone do it? Why do people do it? What should I be asking at home? Mark Novak, what's your thoughts?
Oh, you know what, Budge? We're pretty intimate with knowledge of our industry. So if you said to us, what is that agent like? What is this agent like? Will they do a good job selling? Will they do a good job doing property management? We sort of get an idea because we know intimately our area. But then you think for the consumer, whether it's a landlord looking for an agent or whether it's a seller, a vendor looking for an agent, where do you even start and how do you consider that setup? I think a wolf pack is always going to be more of a successful hunter than a lone wolf, for sure. But there's conditions.
Well, I think, as you said, you almost think, well, picking one person or having a team of three working to sell my property, surely that's better. But I think there's questions to ask and at least have that transparency with that team, because there may be the lead agent, 30 years experience, top agent, great dialogue, smooth. That's who you want representing you. You know, if he's in front of a buyer or she, it's going to be a great conversation. But are they in front of the buyer, or is that their 12-month in associate speaking to the buyers, being at the open home? And then I know quite often a negative feedback we get when people talk about teams they're speaking to. They're like, I picked so-and-so agent and he wasn't or she wasn't even at my open home. So there are questions that need to be discussed on how that works. And like a simple, like you could say, I know if with the team structure, that agent if up front could be like, all right, the associate has the initial call with that buyer, but if there's any warmth to your property, that's when he passes the ball to me. And you could say to the owner, would you rather me doing 200 calls and half of them are a waste of time, and when I finally get a red hot buyer, I'm exhausted, or I've had 20 negative calls, or I get a list of 10 hot buyers out of the 200 who have passed the initial sniff test of interested to your property, and I just focus on them. So, like, what's your thoughts on the transparency around how a team works and what to look for?
Oh, look, and I want to put the control into the consumer's hands. So I think questions that they're the boss. They're the one. They're the one paying fee for service. So, and wanting a good service or wanting a good result. So, I think it's very important the questions that the consumer asks. I think you really want to ask how that relationship or that working relationship looks in the sort of weeks and months ahead. And what I mean by that is I always say to owners when they're selecting me as an agent through a Christmas or an Easter period, I always say, speak with your agent and ask the question if they're intending on taking leave. Some of these agents can go missing for a month. So in the advice they give, it can be influenced based on that through Christmas, for instance. So, those sort of questions. What are you doing with leave? Is your team, are you going to be here? Are you going to be doing every single one of my opens? Not just opens, every one of my opens is a critical question. What involvement will I have with your team is another question. So, and I think, don't get me wrong, I love what you said, Michael, about being, you want to be, the hunter wants to be on the pointy end of the deal. You don't want them doing the whole deal, doing all of the work. The athlete or the hunter has to be doing that pointy end. But I think your questions are important.
And then also, now there can be great control when you're just getting an independent agent as well, where you and I both know there's a lot of, within any conversation, like there's no wasted by a call or not worth it. Like every call can generate something. So there is a strong argument to saying, well, would you like the amount of fee that owner is paying that agent is big. So to have their attention on all 100 calls is very
Yeah.
warranted as well.
Yeah.
There could be that first objection the 12-month into experienced agent can't overcome. So as an owner, I think there's success stories on both ends. Very successful lone wolves and very successful teams, and crapshoots on both sides as well. Now, what would be, I suppose, the other thing to look for as well, to be mindful of, is when you're looking at the data and the figures that team presents you. You don't want them inflating data, claiming multiple teams worth of sales as well.
Results.
What other questions should they be asking?
Look, I think so. If that reps, taking an interest as a seller or a landlord is what, can you explain what your team looks like as well? I think you'll see the agent's face light up, when they're well supported, and I think sometimes that traditional support, people think, oh, that's a secretary working. That's a secretary working for you. No, it can be from senior levels, from junior levels in the business, from similar levels in the business. So I think a good operator has good operators on their left shoulder and right shoulder as well. I think a good operator has good help from experienced people in the business and non-experienced in the business. So it's really, and it's like a soccer team. There's your set. Yes, there's your left wing, right wing, your goalie at the back. There's different team levels. So I think asking that question to your agent about, tell me about your support structure around you and how that can benefit me as a seller. And I think you'll see that agent light up, and actually you probably won't be able to shut them up when they're in a great agency. But I think if it's a lone wolf, I still think they're supported, Burge. I still think a lone wolf has got great people around them. They're more of a single operator, but yeah. And the way we work, Michael, with having on a caravan, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, but I think also just before that, as you said, a lone wolf, there's especially within great companies, there's a lot of support already. Like, you don't have the agent putting up the signboard a lot of time, writing the ad. I suppose it could get confusing for owners out there going, why do you have support? That one doesn't. But yeah, a lot of companies offer a base level of support. A lot of these, that's more your admin getting your listing live support. Now, when people are in a team, that's more of a active deal support. Like, you never have the company doing your callbacks on a Saturday to your buyers. But if you have a team, you may have someone in your team doing those callbacks. So you're right. You don't want to think, well, the lone wolf is doing so much non-dollar productive stuff. There's like a base level of support, all agents. We're just talking more in addition to that. Yeah. Now, another great thing that we offer as well, because you hear it a lot with franchise companies, like, we've got an office in Manly, we've got an office in DY, and they try and claim they all work together. But when you ask them, well, how do you work together? There is no real answer. They're not seeing each other's listings. They're not communicating. Like, if agent A had a buyer in Manly who was right for the DY agency's property, like, there is no mechanism there to support or sharing, like, besides going on the website and looking yourself. I know in our office on a Monday, we do a caravan. So for any new listing, as a team, there's 5 to 10 of us going property to property to be familiar with that property, because we all know if you're on the phone with a client, they say, well, what about this unit? If you haven't been through it, you can't give a good elevator pitch, you can't talk about the property, and it doesn't go nowhere. So at least if you've walked through the property, you just instantly absorb so much information in it. Because a lot of the time, the info, if you write your ads well, the questions they ask is in the ad. But if you've gone through it, you've just got an extra energy. You can add some little stuff like, oh, where it's located in the building is amazing. It's at the back right corner. It's private. There's no one looking at you. All that extra stuff where you just absorb. Not to mention, internally, there's a fee split. Not many owners would know the difference. Like, you can follow the money. You go to other companies, a lot of them don't even have a fee split in place. If I have a perfect buyer for your property, it's just you give up your buyer and you pray you don't have something that's good for them next week, which a lot of agents do. They hold on to the buyer thinking, I might get a listing next week this buyer's perfect for. I won't tell them about Jimmy's property. But I know internally, and you made a conscious effort when designing the business to have that in place.
Yeah, so if a buyer walks through our front door, for instance, or at most agencies' front door, if a buyer walks through a front door and they say, I want to buy a unit for $1 million, and that agency is selling 5 units for $1 million, you've actually got to see 5 each unit through a different agent if they're listed by different agents, which just doesn't make sense. When people work in that team-based environment that we're in, you're a buyer. Let's go back to that example again. You walk through the front door, you got $1 million. The agent that you see then will grab 5 sets of keys and take you to 5 different properties at once. I call it central locking selling, or Lee Woodward calls it central locking selling. We put him in the car, we lock the door, we buy, show them the stuff until they buy it. But that can be done in a team-based environment where we do that 50-50 fee split, and most of the industry is doing a 5%, 95% for listing agent fee split. What does that mean? The other agent doesn't even try to sell your property for 5 or 10%. So what does that mean to an owner with our agency? We compete to get the best price with our buyers. So often 2 agents have got different buyers on the same property, and they're getting 10, 20, 30, 40 grand more in a competition environment. Works well. Yeah,
like even in our office, even the lone wolves are part of the wolf pack, because there's 8 other agents.
That's right.
Sell your property. And then the agents with a wolf pack within the wolf pack. That's a bloody herd. I don't know what's bigger than a wolf pack. Yeah. So, and also,
there's your team. Anything else we want to add before we go, Burge?
No, I think we can talk about property management next time. That's a very in-depth conversation. I wouldn't want to rush it.
No, and you're very passionate about it.
Yeah. So, but I think and also just for owners, a lot of the time for the wolf pack, you're not paying extra. Like, you would be thinking, I'm getting double, triple the sales agent, triple the buyers. I'll be paying more. Not. So it's very valid to look at, and it should be a part of the decision tree when picking your agent. So yeah, I think that's covers everything off.
Have a great day. Respect to the Anzacs tomorrow, and long weekend.
Yes. 2 up. Woo.
Hey, see you guys. Thanks, Burge. See ya. Bye.